Right now from the South Dakota Republican Senator Mike Rounds. He sits on both the Senate Intelligence and Senate Armed Services Committees. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. I know you've said that farmers in your state have been asking you to relay their deep concerns to President Trump over the increased number of tariffs. Is the president listening?
You know, I think he is. I think, first of all, I think during his message to Congress, he made it clear that he had not forgotten about the farmers and ranchers. He made that very clear. I think as we move through this new era where we're trying to bring jobs back into the United States, and the fact that the president has made it clear that he believes that manufacturing is a critical part of it, he wants those blue-collar jobs back in. He's also indicated that he understands that that means that for farmers and ranchers who have to export, and we've got to have good trade deals. I don't think it's gone by him at all that he's got to put together some trade deals as well. You know, we've gone 4 years without a trade deal at all, and our commodity prices are down because we need the markets. So I think the White House, as they move through this, will keep it in mind. But I think we're going to have a lot of questions as we try to hold, our friends kind of accountable in terms of what fair trade looks like. Whether you're talking USMCA or other countries out there that have perhaps taken advantage of very fair trade deals in the past for them. It's time to kind of take a look at the American worker again and bring some of those resources back in. So he's talked a lot about different types of tariffs. Some of them were to push some of our allies to do some things with us. But I think he's also really concerned about these being fair trade deals in the future. It's going to take a while for it all to kind of fall out, but I'm optimistic that we're going to get to a better place for the American worker, and in the meantime, protecting and helping our farmers and ranchers who literally feed the world.
You know, Senator Rounds, I know you told CNN earlier this month that farmers in your state of South Dakota and other states were willing to give the president, in your words, time to make a difference. With Trump's trade war now showing no signs of de-escalating, how much longer are they willing to tolerate this?
I think they're going to give him enough time to actually get something in place. I think the president has threatened a lot of these tariffs to try to see whether or not he can talk some of our friends into changing some of their ways. He's had some success with regard to Canada and Mexico and the fentanyl issues. But I think the bigger picture is going to be, how are we going to make sure that the markets that we've had in the past that we don't lose, whether it's for soybeans or for corn and for wheat. And one of the areas of concern is going to be what about Russia, and what about anything in terms of restrictions on Russia? And is there going to be any agreement to allow Russia to come back in and start selling again while they're still at war and creating problems in Europe? So I think that's going to be a part of the discussion that our farmers and ranchers are going to ask is let's not treat Russia better, and while at the same time our farmers and ranchers still need to find those new markets. We want to be competitive, and we want to be seen as a good trading partner. That's what our farmers want. They want long-term stable markets overseas. I think the president will listen to that. I think his trade reps are going to continue to be reminded of that as they work this thing through, but we're very early in this process. I think our folks are going to give him a little bit more rope.
While I have you, Senator, I want to quickly turn to the growing controversy over the leaked Signal Yemen attack chat that we all know all about. The Atlantic magazine, as you know, published the full, unredacted contents of this chat after several Trump officials testified before your committee, the Senate Intelligence Committee. What we now know, do you think these lawmakers were telling the truth under oath as they were obligated to do?
I think they were doing their best to try to get past the committee hearing. Look, these folks made a mistake, and they're having a very difficult time trying to explain how they made the mistake. They made a mistake. I just hope they've learned their lesson. I think the president probably took a number of them to the woodshed already. I think he made it clear in his statements that he was not happy with the way this thing turned out, in part because in the middle of a mission that was hugely successful after literally months of not being able to take the gloves off, to have these young men and women who just literally really executed a great plan very, very well and without losses, to have that overshadowed because they started talking way too early about what was going on in the Middle East and doing it on Signal where they really should not have done that. And so I think the president probably made it clear to a number of them that this is not going to happen again. In front of the committee, I think a number of my colleagues on a bipartisan basis kind of sent the same message, and I know that we're going to have an inspector general look at this thing and give us a classified annex report as well. But on a bipartisan basis, Republicans and Democrats, We will have another meeting on this, and we will discuss it with them. But in the meantime, I think the president probably made it pretty clear that he wasn't happy either, and we were not happy about that type of a choice of using Signal to begin with, and then having some rather sensitive conversations that really we don't want to see that in public.
You're saying that the Congress will be holding full-scale congressional inquiries, investigations into what happened to learn the lessons to make sure it never happens again. But the president already is downplaying this scandal as simply, in his words, a witch hunt. Do you agree with the president that this is a witch hunt?
I think my assessment would be that the president has probably behind closed doors said a lot more than that, but I think he said it directly to them, which is where he needs to. I think he took some people to the woodshed. I don't think they want to come back and have that happen again. For our part, I think on a bipartisan basis, and remember, the Republicans and Democrats behind closed doors on the Armed Services Committee and on the Intel Committee, we work together. We recognize the seriousness of this indiscretion. And we're going to get the Inspector General's report. We've asked for this. Both the chairman and ranking member of the Armed Services Committee have sent a letter to the Inspector General asking for a report, including a classified annex if necessary. And that means the bottom line, we want as much information as we can get, and then we'll do our own assessment. But right now, I think they screwed up. I think they know they screwed up. I think they also learned their lesson. And I think the president made it very clear to them that this is a lesson they don't want to forget.
Yeah, we're hearing from both Democrats and Republicans that the screw-up was big time, major screw-up over there.
Well, once again, Wolf, it took away from the great success of that mission. And I mean, what a terrible thing to have happen in the middle of the program where our young men and women come in, they kick butt, they clean things up, they do it in a joint response after months of not being able to do so because of political pressure not to. The president gives them the green light to go in and do it. They do a great job, and then to have this overshadow that really successful takeout of the command and control in Yemen, that's really the most serious part of this whole thing is it doesn't give these young men and women in uniform credit for what they did. A really great job.
And we got to learn specifically how a journalist was included in that very sensitive chat on Signal. Senator Mike Rounds, as usual, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir.